At exactly 4:32 a.m. on the 1st of November, the skies above northern Ukraine ignited. Without warning, 42 caliber cruise missiles and 18 Lancet drones crossed the border at supersonic speed. Their combined value over $160 million. Their destination Kharkiv, Chernihiv, and Sumy. 3.2 million civilians asleep beneath a frozen sky. Radar screens flashed red across Ukraine's northern command. Operators shouted coordinates. Alarms wailed through the bunkers. Patriot and NASAMS batteries came alive, launching interceptors that carved white scars across the clouds. 36 defensive missiles rose into the dark, striking metal against metal. 18 drones were destroyed midair. 6 missiles broke through. For 13 minutes, the night became a storm of steel and flame. Apartment blocks collapsed. Hospitals caught fire. Power grids failed across 5 provinces. In Chernihiv, a nurse ran through a burning corridor, clutching 2 newborns in her arms. She didn't stop. She carried life through fire. And then, silence. The fire still burned, but the sky was empty. Russia called it Operation Winter Strike. To Moscow, it was victory. To the world, it was a message carved in ash. From Kyiv, no words came, no threats, no promises of revenge, just silence. But silence in war has meaning. It is not surrender. It is calculation. Beneath the capital, in a hardened command bunker, a single light flickered over a map of enemy radar stations. 2 pilots waited beside their aircraft, modified Mi-29s cloaked in gray. Their mission was simple, impossible, and final. Codename Operation Spiral Gate. And then, everything changed. At 4:33 a.m., the Russian barrage reached its full fury. 42 caliber missiles tore through the clouds, flying low and fast Mach 2, skimming the frozen treetops. 18 Lancet drones followed behind, each carrying a 10-pound warhead built to hunt radar signatures. Together, they formed a sky of fire. Ukraine's early warning systems caught the first wave within 30 seconds. The command net erupted. Multiple inbound, bearing 097, distance 80 kilometers. Patriot and NASAMS crews went to full alert. Power surged through the launch rails. Every soldier on those decks knew what was coming. Then impact. Missiles met interceptors in midair. Thunder rolled over the countryside. Shattered fragments rained down like burning snow. 18 drones were destroyed before reaching their targets. But 6 calibers broke through the defense line. 6 missiles out of 42, and 6 were enough. Kharkiv's industrial zone vanished in a single flash. Chernihiv's maternity hospital took a direct hit. In Sumy, transformers exploded one after another, plunging entire districts into darkness. Electricity failed across 5 provinces. 312 substations gone. 400,000 people without heat, as the temperature dropped below zero. Inside the wreckage, sirens mixed with screams. Firefighters fought the infernos using melted snow. Ambulances skidded across frozen roads. One nurse sprinted through smoke, clutching trembling infants in her arms. Behind her, flames consumed the corridor. Ahead, only the sound of crying. That image would haunt the nation long after the smoke cleared. By 4:47 a.m., a final missile struck the outskirts of Sumy, an unmarked drone factory worth $93 million. The explosion flattened 12,000 square meters of production halls. Composite fuselage parts were found half a mile away. 9,000 people were evacuated before sunrise. Satellite imagery, taken minutes later, showed 112 fires still burning across northern Ukraine. The strike had achieved its goal. Not just destruction, but terror. It was psychological warfare, executed with precision and cost. To Moscow, it was proof that winter belonged to them. To Kyiv, it was something else, a warning, a challenge. As dawn crept over the smoking cities, The air smelled of burned plastic and cold metal. Generators hummed weakly in the dark. Medical teams worked under flashlight beams. And above it all, the sky was empty, silent, gray, indifferent. In the Situation Room beneath Kyiv, generals stood before the screens. Satellite feeds replayed the impact zones in slow motion. Damage estimates scrolled across the monitors. $420 million lost in a single night. An aide whispered, "They think we're finished." The commander's reply was cold. "We're not finished. We're calculating." Outside, snow fell gently over the capital. The fires still burned in the north. But in that moment of stillness, a different kind of fire began to rise. One of resolve. Because history shows that every great counterstrike begins the same way. With silence. With planning. With one clear order waiting in the dark and deep beneath the city. That order already had a name. Operation Spiral Gate. At 5:20 a.m., the dust and smoke over Kyiv still hung heavy when the decision was made. In a fortified bunker beneath the capital, President Zelensky sat with his top generals, intelligence officers, and engineers. No shouting. No chaos. Only a cold, calculated silence, the kind that precedes history. On the table lay one mission file. Codename: Operation Spiral Gate. Objective: Moscow. Purpose: deterrence through precision. Ukraine's Air Command presented the impossible. 2 modified MiG-29 Spiral variants, each rebuilt over 19 months in hidden workshops. Low visibility coatings, infrared suppressors, digital radar stealth suites that reduced detection probability by 87%. Weapons load: R-77s and KH-31 anti-radiation missiles. Strike range: 600 kilometers into enemy airspace. The cost of the entire operation: under $12 million, less than the price of one Russian Pantsir battery. And yet, their target sat inside the most expensive air defense network on Earth, 240 radar stations, 2 Pantsir systems, 76,000 surveillance cameras, and a $9.4 billion defense web. From an American perspective, it was audacious. This wasn't a mass strike. This was a surgical insertion, built on the same doctrine that underpins U.S. precision warfare: speed, stealth, and decisiveness. Not overwhelming force, just overwhelming accuracy. At 3:58 a.m. Moscow time, 2 MiG-29s lifted off from a subterranean airstrip near Vinnytsia. Their call signs: Phantom 1 and Phantom 2. Engines roared into the fog as the pilots saluted in silence. Within seconds, they were gone, vanishing beneath the radar horizon at just 36 meters above the snow line. They flew blind, guided by terrain-following algorithms and satellite overlays. 2,000 square miles of Russian farmland below them, silent, frozen, unaware. At 3:59, Phantom 1 deployed a decoy, a Leica 100 UAV, designed to mimic the radar signature of a full-sized fighter. Cost: $25,000. 2 Russian Pantsir systems immediately locked on and fired a $1.9 million missile salvo. The sky erupted. The decoy disintegrated, but the damage was already done. For the price of a sedan, Ukraine had blinded Moscow's defenses for nearly an hour. Phantom 2 broke through the gap. Switching from stealth to strike mode, its radar locked onto a Krasuka 4 jamming unit, the same system that had crippled Ukraine's radar days earlier. One KH-31P missile screamed through the snowstorm at Mach 3.5. Impact. The explosion reached 1,200 degrees Celsius. Metal turned to vapor. In 5 minutes, 3 electronic warfare hubs across Bryansk province went dark. Nearly 20% of Moscow's radar coverage gone. Russian controllers shouted ghost readings across the network. Some saw 11 enemy aircraft, where only 2 existed. One Tor M2 battery fired blindly, its missiles missing by 30 meters, confused by Ukraine's frequency-hopping codes written in Lviv 3 weeks before the mission. At 4:05 a.m., the sky belonged to Ukraine. In 7 minutes, Russia had lost over $58 million in missiles, radar, and fuel. Ukraine's cost, less than 200,000. The MiGs climbed to 10,000 meters. Ahead, Moscow, a city of 12 million people, sleeping beneath the illusion of safety. The pilots could see the faint orange glow of streetlights through the clouds. Then came the final transmission from Kiev Command. Target corridor confirmed. Phase 4 authorized. End. Phantom 1 armed 3R-77 air-to-surface missiles. Execute spiral pattern, weapons free. At 4:09, the first strike began. 3 missiles dropped from the wings and accelerated toward the city at Mach 3.2. They struck a cluster of luxury towers along Kutuzovsky Prospect apartments, housing military elites and government ministers. The shockwave shattered 3,000 windows. Fire climbed 70 stories high. Molten glass rained down like liquid light. Phantom 2 followed with 5 Kh-31 missiles aimed at the Philly district. One hit the reserve parliament building, collapsing 3 floors. Another slammed into the Kuntsevo power plant, igniting fuel stores worth over $100 million. The blast vaporized 3,000 gallons of transformer oil in seconds. The sound rolled across the frozen city like thunder over steel. Within minutes, Moscow's western grid went dark. 2 million residents without power. 76,000 cameras offline. Traffic light dead. Emergency frequencies jammed by their own feedback loops. At 4:22 a.m., the radio silence was absolute. And in that silence, a truth emerged. A nation under siege had reached into the heart of its aggressor and struck with precision born from necessity. From a U.S. analytical view, this was more than retaliation. It was a proof of concept that small, intelligent warfare could dismantle massive defenses. A modern echo of every lesson the Pentagon had ever written. Technology alone doesn't guarantee security. Adaptation does. By 4:25, both Phantoms turned west, fading into the storm. Behind them, the capital of an empire burned quietly beneath the snow. No triumphant radio calls. No celebration. Just a single encrypted message relayed back to Kiev Command. Mission complete. Returning home. The cost under $4 million. The damage over $600 million. And the message clear as daylight. Moscow was no longer untouchable. At 6:30 a.m., the sun rose over a different Moscow. Not the proud capital of an empire, but a city bleeding smoke and silence. 18 fires still burned across its districts. Power grids collapsed. Metro lines frozen. Mobile networks gone. For nearly 2 hours, the largest city in Europe had fallen back 100 years dark, cold, disconnected. From orbit, satellite images showed long plumes of gray drifting east. The city's western skyline, once lined with glass towers, now glowed with ember light. What had taken decades to build was reduced to ash in 16 minutes. Inside the Kremlin's underground command center, chaos ruled. Lines to 8 military bases were dead. Fire brigades couldn't reach each other. 2 civilian airliners flew blind for 17 minutes, one narrowly avoiding collision above Domodedovo airspace. When the president finally spoke, his words were simple. This is war. But there was no one left to hear the order. The command circuits were still offline. By 8:40 a.m., NATO's Crisis Response Council met in Brussels. There was no condemnation of Ukraine, only concern and quiet observation, because everyone understood the significance of what had just happened. For the first time in modern history, a nation struck deep into Moscow's airspace using tools that cost less than a single Russian air defense battery. It wasn't luck, it was evolution. A demonstration that precision and imagination could outmatch scale and intimidation. From an American perspective, the operation read like a textbook exercise in 21st century warfare. Small footprint, decentralized execution, maximum psychological and strategic effect. This was the same philosophy that shaped decades of U.S. doctrine: speed, stealth, superiority through precision. When analysts at the Pentagon reviewed the data, one conclusion stood out: technology alone doesn't win wars. Adaptation does. In that sense, Ukraine didn't just retaliate. It validated the very logic behind American air power: strike smart, strike deep, and strike only once. By noon, reports confirmed over $620 million in direct military and infrastructure losses. Independent estimates place the total closer to $2.8 billion. 2 aircraft, 16 minutes. An empire humbled. As smoke cleared, the meaning crystallized. The age of brute force was over. The age of precision had begun. Every nation watching that morning learned the same lesson: walls of steel cannot protect outdated minds. A missile may cost millions, but a good idea costs nothing. And so, as the fires of Moscow faded into the gray horizon, a quiet realization spread through every command room on Earth. Power is no longer measured by how many missiles you can launch, but by how fast you can adapt when they fail. Because you can silence cities. You can destroy grids. You can bury truth beneath propaganda. But you can't bomb an idea whose time has come. So now, I'll leave the question to you. Was this just revenge or the dawn of a new kind of warfare? What does Operation Spiral Gate mean for the future of global strategy? Share your thoughts below, and let's hear what you believe this moment says about the wars yet to come.